Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. So if you're a big Spawn fan and you're looking for some top investment grade comic books, then this will be the video for you. Now, I do want to stick to CGC 9.8 comics because, yeah, if you're coming at it from that investment perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense to stick to CGC 9.8 comics for like these 1980s and 1990s comic books. During this era, comic books were so popular and they were so heavily printed. So if you do have that investment perspective, yeah, it just makes sense to kind of get that top graded one. Then you sort of have that, like, it's like a 1 of 100 or a 1 of 600 collector item or a 1 of 300, like depending on the issue. And that's really cool. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over the 9.8 philosophy really quick here. But here we'll have a full list of 4 Spawn CGC 9.8 comic books to buy and hold forever. And yeah, with this Spawn list, I wanted to get really definitive. Like, these are the books that I think will pretty much like increase in value the most over time. Like, if you're right beginner to Spawn and maybe you're interested in 9.8s, investing in 9.8s, like this is the definitive 4, I think. Also got some honorable mentions, so let's get right into it here. First book on the list is a Spawn #1 Newsstand. Yeah, so grabbed mine here. I got one in the 9.8, a really nice one in the raw, and it's a possible 9.8 in the raw. I bought this at a con from someone who thought it was a direct version at my local con for, I think it was $50 Canadian. So that's like, yeah, $35 for Spawn #1 Newsstand, 9.6 to 9.8. Crazy deal. Now, Spawn #1 Newsstand, first of all, you kind of get the nostalgia from the cover, and I think that's kind of a big thing with Spawn #1. Spawn was so popular, so everyone kind of remembers, the first Spawn #1 cover. So I think from that perspective, just from people's initial reaction to want to buy a Spawn comic, to kind of get the most rare Spawn #1 makes a lot of sense. So on the census here, there's a 5,841 Spawn #1s in the CGC 9.8 there, with the direct editions all lumped in there, kinda. The direct and the newsstand, sorry, all lumped in there in that 5,841. So the word out there is kind of 1% of all printed versions of Spawn #1 were the newsstand version. So, if you do the math, like, that doesn't mean there's very many 9.8s out there. Conservatively, I like to go with 5%, so I'll take 5% of that 5,841. It ends up being like 280 or something like that. We did the math on another video. I didn't do it for this one, but about 270 to 280 CGC 9.8s in the Spawn #1 Newsstand out there would be my guesstimate. 52.5% to 9.8 ratio, and that's with all of them clumped in, so that doesn't really mean too much. If we look at the prices for Spawn #1 Newsstand, yeah, they're heating up a little bit, but I'm interested to see what happens here, because apparently McFarlane was talking about a Spawn movie like being closer to reality than most people would think. I didn't see the video or anything, but I'm hearing a couple people talking about that. He must have done some kind of media appearance. But Spawn #1 Newsstand in the 9.8, some of the completed listings this morning I saw, $520 in the 9.8. That just ended like 2 days ago in an auction. So a really good example, an idea of what it's going for now, $520. Also saw one sell for $565, and one about 2 months ago went for $485 in an auction. So yeah, maybe if you get super lucky here, you get it under $500, but it's looking like it's creeping over $500. Again, yeah, pretty interested to see if these Spawn rumors, movie rumors, heat up. And there's been so many, even in my sort of 3 to 4 years of collecting 9.8s and comic books, there's been probably like 2 or 3 times now where a Spawn movie was supposed to be coming and things like that. And this book kind of heated up. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think a Spawn movie would be fantastic. But Spawn #1 Newsstand, definitely the first one to talk about, and I've kind of ad nauseum sort of recommended this one, and I got one. Wish I had 2, to be honest, but okay, next one here, a bit of a more maybe overlooked one. Spawn #174. This is the first appearance of the Gunslinger Spawn. Get a really cool cover on this one. I think this one's got some potential over time, because certainly we're going to get into some of these other bread and butter Spawn books, but this one is a little bit off the radar. But yeah, I just have a feeling like you buy and hold this one and hold it for 20 years, it's probably going to be worth a lot more if you pay for a fair value right now. So there's only 103 9.8s out there too. That's pretty great, being that Spawn started to be pretty low printed during this time. 64.8% the 9.8 ratio, so not too much to write home about there. But when we look at the price, though, this is certainly the more affordable one on the list in the 9.8. Most recent ones are kind of selling for $375. Yeah, $350 to $375. Saw a completed listing, I think it was about a month or two ago, for $325. I was, in the last 2 years of really collecting here, I've occasionally saw this one go for under $300 in the 9.8. Like, yeah, I think the market's kind of moved on here. It's really hot. But this one my feeling was like, oh, it's like a $260 book, $250 maybe if you get really lucky, but heating up a little bit, and I think over time this should heat up with Spawn books and do quite well. And I do think it's kind of overlooked, but one that I think should be on a definitive list. Yeah, the first Gunslinger Spawn definitely has got its cult of following fans. And yeah, I bought my Spawn 306 out here. And yeah, this is kind of a newer, great McFarlane variant, Spawn 306, McFarlane variant with the Gunslinger Spawn smoking on the cover. Kind of a cool modern one to maybe consider. But I don't have a Spawn number 174. Yeah, one to consider for sure. Next one's a really great one. It's a Malibu Sun number 13 in the CGC 9.8. Yeah, this is one I've mentioned on a couple want lists of me wanting one and things like that. So you get the first Spawn cover here that apparently predates Spawn number 1. I think they come out the same month, but like when you get into the details, this one predates Spawn number 1. And it is kind of a promotional magazine to promote Spawn number 1. So you get the sweet cover, you get the sweet back cover. I'm pretty sure there's some promotional material inside. Only 26 CGC 9.8s out there in the blue label. Yeah, looking on the census this morning, still only 26 of them. 9.2% the CGC 9.8 ratio. For a 90s book, a single digit 9.8 ratio is almost unheard of, and it's extremely rare for a 90s book in the CGC 9.8. That's why I've sort of wanted this one. Like, it's the first appearance of Spawn in publications. It's super rare in the 9.8 with the single digit 9.8 ratio. So pricing, I had to look on GoCollect because on eBay there was no completed listings, and GoCollect has the fair value at $925. And I think the last one I saw sell on eBay was like $850. It seemed like GoCollect had the fair market value there for about $700, but I never saw them go for that little. Yeah, this is one I think $925 the GoCollect fair value. If you really want this one, if you're a big Spawn fan, and I kind of do, but it is really expensive, so it is kind of hard to be impulsive and pull the trigger on this one. But because I do like the Spawn number 1 Newsstand so much, anywhere under $1,000, I think that's a great investment grade book, especially if you got a long-term time horizon. Yeah, this is one in 20 to 30 years it could be worth like $8,000 in the 9.8 would be just a kind of long-term guesstimate. But yeah, a lot of potential, being that really cool first Spawn cover, first time, really rare in the 9.8 as well. Yeah, this one kind of sticks out of the list, and I think that's why I've had it on my want list. Just a really wantable Spawn comic. Malibu Sun 13, CGC 9.8, or the Raws. Yeah, certainly just one to consider all around. All right, last one on the definitive list of Spawn investment grade comic books to buy and hold forever. Spawn number 1, black and white. Yeah, this one, it's such a low printed Spawn book that, in the 90s there was almost nothing low printed by Spawn, in Spawn, because it was so popular and they were selling a lot of them, so they were heavily printed. But Spawn number 1, black and white was kind of, I think it was like one per store if you ordered a certain amount of the sort of back issue that came out during this time. On the census, though, in the CGC 9.8, a pretty special one. Yeah, 84 CGC 9.8s out there. So one of 84 collector item, pretty great. 16.1% the CGC 9.8 ratio, pretty low for a 90s book. Like almost, this is like kind of neck and neck with like Batman Adventures 12. Not as low as Malibu Sun 13, which kind of highlights how crazy rare Malibu Sun 13 is in the CGC 9.8. But Spawn black and white, yeah, so this is a reprint of Spawn number 1, and it's like sketch inside, black and white cover, sketch inside, really low printed. Way less printed than like Spawn number 1 Newsstand. Yeah, I was kind of doing a little research, and this is pretty much the lowest printed Spawn book in the 90s, is what I was kind of gathering from my research. Not seeing a 9.8 completed listing on eBay right now, which is a bit surprising, but GoCollect has the fair market value at $1,500. So yeah, this is one I'm pretty sure it was like 1,000. You know, maybe if you got a screaming deal on it, 6 to 12 months ago, it was like 950. Apparently it's 1,500 now. Yeah, and it's such a low printed thing, and there's not a lot of low printed Spawn comic books, so I can understand that. But maybe looking at Malibu Sun there, especially in the CGC 9.8s when we're comparing, I really like Malibu Sun a little bit better, like a lower 9.8 ratio with 9.2%, so it's more kind of relatively rare in the 9.8, and that's how you want to be the most accurate, because you kind of have a numerator and a denominator with those 9.8 ratios, and that's just a little bit more accurate than saying, there's like 26 9.8s or whatever, or 84 for the Spawn black and white. But on Malibu Sun, there's only 26 9.8s adds to 84, so there's less, it's more rare, plus a lower 9.8 ratio, and the price is lower than Spawn black and white. So when you see that kind of, that discrepancy there, I think a Malibu Sun around $1,000 is a great investment grade book. Spawn black and white's great too, but it's pretty expensive, and it's just a reprint, so I'd kind of prefer the Malibu Sun 13 over Spawn black and white. But if you're kind of a completionist, man, all four of these are just great top investment grade Spawn comics to want. All right, I'll have a list in the description below, but we'll get into some honorable mentions here, concluding up. A couple honorable mentions. The four really do kind of stand out, so I just really would push the four and recommend the four as investment grade Spawn CGC 9.8 comic books to buy. Honorable mention number 1, Spawn number 2 Newsstand. Yeah, so in the Newsstand, Spawn number 2 is just as rare as kind of Spawn number 1. Great cover, nostalgic cover as well. First appearance of the Violator, so yeah, just a lot to really like about this one, and it's wantable. And actually, doing the research for the video, there's one on eBay right now in the States. It's like $55 shipping to Canada, so I probably will not bid on it, but it's an auction. There's a Spawn number 1 and a Spawn number 2 Newsstand on auction right now on eBay, if you're kind of watching this early. But Spawn number 2 Newsstand is wantable. It is. I'm so nostalgic for it. I love that cover too, just classic McFarlane Spawn cover. You get the first appearance of Violator in there, so one to consider in the Newsstand. Next one, honorable mention, Spawn Batman. Yeah, with Frank Miller, doing the story, and Todd McFarlane on the cover and the art. So you get the kind of two legends. The interiors are amazing on this one. So for an affordable CGC 9.8, I think this one, probably get it for like $125 is a really good deal, I think. Sometimes in an auction these go close to 100 or even under 100 maybe. So Spawn Batman with the two legends kind of teaming up is kind of sort of my affordable pick, I would say. Next one, a really affordable one too, Spawn number 50. Yeah, Spawn number 50 is a homage of Spawn number 1. It's there's quite a lot of 9.8s out there. Like, it's one that a lot of people sort of get graded. It is kind of just a bit of a go-to for an affordable, I'm not going to say it's an investment grade book, but definitely a cool collector item. And I've saw these kind of go for like $70, $60. Like, I think even some, maybe even a little bit less. So even if you're even more on a budget, Spawn number 50 in the 9.8 with the Spawn number 1 cover homage. All right, just wanted to get through a definitive list of Spawn CGC 9.8, because I remember when I sort of got back into collecting 9.8s and things like that, I was really only aware of like Spawn number 1, and I sort of knew what newsstands were, so I knew that was the rare one, but wasn't really aware too much of Malibu Sun 13, although I do remember seeing the cover, just wasn't too aware back then when I was so young. Spawn black and white, same deal. And then Spawn number 174 is kind of new to me because, I just really love the Gunslinger, and that's definitely one to consider. All right, so good to get a definitive list of investment grade Spawn CGC 9.8. So thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Yeah, I'd love to have you on our comic book collecting and comic book investing team. Hit the bell for all the latest video notifications, and add me on Instagram and Twitter too. Yeah, and message me on Instagram if you would like to message me about whatever. But thanks so much for watching today. Definitely worth it to think of all the best Spawn books, and I'm really looking forward. We're kind of early on these sort of Spawn movie rumors, so who knows, this could be definitely a good list to maybe get in there right now and possibly sell these, flip them. Like, I really like to take that long-term perspective, but if you're into that, this might be one to grab a couple right now. And then if these Spawn rumors heat up even more, you know, I could see a Spawn #1 newsstand pushing like, you know, $1,000 on a confirmed Spawn movie. And certainly all the other prices would do really well too. All right, thanks so much for watching though. I'll see you on the next one.